Trinity family and whoever else might be watching online. It's May the 4th, so May the 4th be with you. If you're a Star Wars fan, you know what that's all about. But we are entering into a brand new week, and I think we have some hope on the horizon. I think all of us were waiting and watching with anxiousness about our provincial government giving a bit of a roadmap for reopening. We have that roadmap now, and a little bit of hope in the future. For our daily devotional today, what I'd like to do is start off by just trying to put my finger on perhaps a feeling that some of us are experiencing right now. It's not quite what you would call survivor's guilt, if you know that concept and what that's about, but it's kind of heading in that direction. I'm today thinking about people who have been relatively unaffected by COVID and are actually doing really quite well with employment and health and family and friends and all of that. But they might even feel a little bit guilty because everything is going so well in light of it going so bad for so many other people. How do you feel that way? Like you don't want to brag about it. You don't want to be one of those kind of people, but you do feel a little bit of a nagging something. Yeah, you want to be thankful to God, but how do we process all that? Well, as we start this new week, I just want to remind us a little bit about the sanctity of work and how much it means to God for us to give all that we have to good, wholesome, productive work. And so we're going to be looking from Colossians chapter 3, verses 18 right through to chapter 4, verse 1. I'm going to focus in on the slaves and masters comment there. But this whole passage that we're looking at is something that is often called a household code. These are things that showed up throughout the ancient Near East, not just in the Bible itself, though we have a couple of examples of them in the Bible. One of them here in Colossians, another famous one is in Ephesians. What you'll notice when you're looking at the text here today is that there's three pairs of audiences being spoken to, three pairs. So you have wives and husbands, children and parents, and then slaves and masters. With each one, Paul seems to talk to what you might call the more vulnerable one of the pair first, and he counterbalances that by talking to what could be considered the stronger or more powerful one, at least in that culture. So after talking to wives and husbands, he then was talking to children and parents, and lastly to slaves and masters. Now, don't get too hung up on the slaves and masters thing. I know that it was a very different world back then. There's some contextual stuff that we can talk about if we need to, but putting that context aside, for our purposes today, let's think about slaves as if they were employees. Let's talk about masters as if they were like the employers or the bosses. So let's take a look at this. Starting at verse 22, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. I love that. Work no matter if you're being supervised closely, or perhaps even now that you're at home with not as much supervision, keep working hard with sincerity of heart and with reverence for the Lord. Verse 23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Another emphasis there. You are actually working for the Lord in your work ethic. And here's the promise though, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. Yeah, you get a paycheck, you have benefits, you have these kinds of things that happen in an economy of exchange that way with employment. But more than that, we're receiving an inheritance from the Lord as a reward for good work. It is the Lord you are serving. Anyone who does wrong will be repaid for their wrongs, and there is no favoritism. But like I said before, Paul then kind of flips it around and he talks to the more powerful person in that pairing. And so next he talks to masters. Masters, provide your slaves with what is right and fair. Maybe as we would say it, bosses, provide your employees with what is right and fair, because you also have a master in heaven. So do what's right and fair in your employment contracts. Even in this time with COVID, it's obviously something I think it lightens my heart to see so many companies try to extend a lot of grace to their employees. Those are good things to do. And we do this because none of us are actually islands unto ourselves. You also are under the authority of your Lord and Master Jesus in heaven. So I say all of that to just encourage us as we get into a brand new week. if you are gainfully employed and you're doing quite well, just remember your work is vitally important to God. It's a sacred duty that you live out and work out under your reverence for Christ. So you got this. You're going to have a good week. And hey, let's check in. Shoot me a message if you want to chat sometime. But I hope that this starts off your week with some encouragement. Have a great day, and we'll catch you again tomorrow morning.